Today we will test out how important range is or isn't for fighters. We will test out range focused heavy fighters versus small airframes, and this really broke my mind. I don't know why I haven't really tested this out this deep before, but yeah, let's get straight into it. There's one thing I just want to say before we look at the results, and I got some questions from the last video about this. When I compare two planes, if I have one plane that costs 20 to build and another plane that costs 40 to build, I always compare them from their building cost. So if you have that plane that costs 20 to build, the enemy needs to kill 2 of them. If they lose one, that costs 40. So we want to kill as much of the production capacity as possible from the enemy. So how many planes is not that important. The most important thing is, are we winning the industrial war or not when we're fighting in there? And this is where I want to begin. This is the 5th test I did. This is 1940. I have 700 heavy fighters from the UK fighting against 1200 small airframes from Germany. So this time I'm Germany, and if we look here, we have really lousy air mission efficiency. Well, 25. It's not amazing from the English part either. They have 17 air efficiency, but they cover, as you see here, we have that little spot. This is Germany covering, and we have England. We don't need to tag over. England covering a lot more of this air zone. But as we see here, let's tag over to Germany so we don't look at the results from different points. As you see here, we have Germany losing 149 of the small airframe, and UK losing 270. And this is not just bad, because of course the heavy fighters are more expensive, so they lose more and they're more expensive. So we have here in the battle in the Pacific with long-range heavy fighters fighting against German small fighters, where German small fighters are really just crushing the heavy fighters. And not just with that amount. If I just need to check my spreadsheets here, I'm gonna put it up on the screen for you guys too. UK in this battle are losing 3 times as much production as Germany is. I didn't believe this, and I have more interesting things coming up, but this is just, it blew my mind that 25 in air efficiency really stands up against the UK players, 700 heavy fighters. And I just want to take a short moment to say that we release one new guide every Monday on this YouTube channel. Next week it will be Badger releasing something amazing. We also have our Patreon guides released every second Thursday. For all the Patreons, if you want to be a free Patreon, you will get some advantages from that too. So please join our free Patreons, and we will reach out to you and see what you're interested in. But yeah, let's continue with the guide. And you might think, why is it 1200 against 700? And once again, I'm looking production here, because we have much cheaper, if we look at the airframe here, we have much cheaper 34 in cost small fighters. And if we go to England, we have much more expensive range fighters. So 58 versus 34. So they lose more, and they lose much more in the production cost. So yeah, I was completely sure that this was a done deal. 25% inefficiency, that's not enough. You need to be higher, but you don't need to be higher. That's the main thing here. If you want to kill enemy fighters, small fighters is the way to go, even in this setting, like with 25% efficiency against 70% efficiency. One thing I just want to mention before we go to the next test is that I didn't put self-sealing fuel tanks on either plane this time. I got a lot of comments how expensive they are because they need rubber. They are also really good. But I'm thinking I'm gonna make an entire own guide on self-sealing fuel tanks in the future. So I removed that, so we have almost the same production cost for aluminium and 1 rubber, and going to Germany, I think it was 3 aluminium and 1 rubber, but aluminium is something that you have a lot more of for most countries than you have of rubber. So the conclusion here is total win for the small fighters. 3 times as much production cost loss for the UK player for the heavy fighters than it was for Germany. So over to the next test. This time I put it in the English channel, but actually the important thing is how much air efficiency do we have for the German small fighters and the air efficiency for the heavy fighters. It's the same design here, and what we can see now is that going down to 15% air efficiency versus 100%, now the heavy fighters shine through. So Germany lost 202 fighters, and the heavy fighters lost 121. But now we come to cost again, because the heavy fighters costs more. So this is actually cost-based and equal battle. So you have to come down to 15% efficiency for the small fighters versus 100% efficiency for the long-range heavy fighters to have them equal in damage dealing. So this really blew my mind, because coming down to 50%, that's pretty hard actually. You saw me fighting in the Pacific. I had 25% just having them in an island in the middle of an air zone, or in the corner of an air zone even. So this means that small fighters are really good of defending themselves in the area that they can actually reach. When we're talking about fighter versus fighter action, I wouldn't have thought this, but yeah, this time I think the UK actually won with like 1 or 2 percentage point of construction cost. But anyways, almost an equal battle. 15% air efficiency on the small fighter parts versus 100 efficiency for the heavy fighter parts, and really take this with you. And even if you make some kind of difference in designs from what I have made, you still have to consider that it's actually a huge deal coming to the cost part of the equation, and that 15% efficiency actually gives the possibility to win against, not win against, but go up against 100% efficiency of more expensive long-range heavy fighters. And the last test for 1930 tech I want to show you is 100% efficiency for the heavy fighters and 63% efficiency for the small fighters. And once again, the small fighters really win this one, killing 240% of the industrial capacity that they are losing. So production cost wise, 240% losses for the heavy fighters. So yeah, small fighters winning the air war is really good. There's a lot of more things to it. I will talk about it in the end, but I also want to show you some tests I did in 1936. And let's look at the 1936, because here the tech is quite different, so you can't be less good fighters. But you see here, we have 80% versus 100%. Small fighters, there are more of them because they're cheaper to build. So this is IC-wise, production cost-wise, equal amount of production cost put into the planes. But you see here that the small fighters are losing more, but when we're comparing production costs, and of course I will put up it in the screen for everyone, we're losing less production cost with the small fighters. So we're killing 20% more production than we have used to build our planes. So at 8% in standard, the rain and stuff makes it lower. We're winning by 20% more industrial capacity destroyed, production cost destroyed, than we have invested ourselves. But this is a big difference from what we saw in 1940. And the biggest difference here is that these fighters, these small fighters, don't have armor plates or something like that that makes defense going up. Because if we take this air defense from 10 to 20, we halve the incoming damage. And that's huge for the small fighters. So small fighters get a huge bonus in 1939 when you get the tech to actually put on armor plates or self-sealing fuel tanks. But I said before, I won't discuss that in this guide. I'm gonna make an own guide for the self-sealing fuel tanks. But when I'm looking at the math here, 80%, yeah, then we're winning. If we go down to 70%, that's when we start losing more with small fighters. So I made a test with 68.4% of air efficiency, and then the roles were reversed with small fighters, around 70% in efficiency. I lost 20% more in production cost than I could kill from my enemy. So yeah, there you have it. I did a lot more testing, but this was the most interesting results, 5 I think it was, that I wanted to show you. So in the beginning, small fighters aren't as good, but still they are useful even if you don't have full efficiency. When you come to 1940, it's a whole different show. And of course, you can look at the designs. You can think for yourself. If I make the design this way or this way, it could be better. Because what I did, going for, if you just look here at the third test I did for 1940. Of course, there's a lot of design choices here that you can think about. I made the heavy fighter for England, focusing on long range. So looking at this one, I did as much as I could to put on more range without using a better engine, because better engines is just, yeah, really expensive. But if you would have cut this one out, so you got less range, your air defense goes up, and it could be something else. And if you put on more armor plates, you couldn't, yeah, like this, you have a lot more air defense, could make a difference. But then where our range are going down really good, a lot. So yeah, there's design choices in this, of course, but the main takeaway is that small fighters are really good when you want to kill heavy fighters. So are heavy fighters worthless? They are absolutely not, and there's a few things that you really need to think about here, because we have looked at how much do you kill of the enemy fighters. What we haven't looked at is air superiority. When you don't have air efficiency enough, you won't have as much planes in the region giving you air superiority, and air superiority will be in the enemy's favor. So with the same cost, we're winning the air superiority battle with a lot here, 70% better from equal, and this means a lot. In naval battles, it means a lot. In land battles, it means a lot. So air superiority wise, heavy fighters have an important role to play if you have bigger air zones. And it's not just air superiority with range. With range, you can get more planes into one single zone, because you might have more than 2,000 planes that's in reach for the first airbase, the closest airbase. So if you have more planes, you can get from more air bases into that zone, and you can have more planes than the enemy has. And with that advantage, you might have a 2-to-1 advantage, because you can get more planes into their zone. That will make a huge difference and will flip the switch on every calculation, because you have more resources in that zone. So that's really important to have in mind. So you're not just here to kill enemy fighters, even if that's extremely fun. You also want to have more fighters, more units than your opponent have. But that depends on how you play, how much airplanes you build, and if you really need to have if you have more than 2,000 airplanes to fight with. But yeah, that's an important part when considering range versus stats. But yeah, that's it for this time. I hope you enjoyed it. It seems like you enjoyed the last time I tested out fighters. So yeah, this was the follow-up. Next time I think I will do CAS, or I will look into self-sealing fuel tanks, something like that. Or if inspiration strikes me, I will do something completely different. But yeah, I will come back to this, because this is really fun, really interesting. I hope you enjoyed everything, and yeah, check out the live game on Saturday, and I will see you guys next time.